Dear God, everyone, Kajima Shiva, and welcome back to episode number 62 of the Inline G Flute podcast with me, your host, Inline G. It is the penultimate installment of my NFA bootleg series today, lads, and it is breaking my heart. I'm going to miss this. Now, you've seen the name for who's being interviewed on this week's podcast. This man needs little to no introduction. It is flute beatboxer and Project Trio member Greg Patillo. What more do you want me to say, lads? It's Greg Patillo, okay? So I'm not even going to do an intro. You all know who it is. And if you don't, go and check it out. But I do, lads, I have an apology. NFA was very stressful, and I upgraded a lot of my equipment to see if I can handle doing so many podcasts at once. And generally it worked, but I messed up here, lads. Audio listeners, you're fine. No problems at all. Enjoy the podcast. Have a blast. Video watchers, I am so sorry, but the video stopped about 2/3 through the podcast. It ran out of memory. I didn't even realize. This episode was so good, I couldn't even dream of asking Greg to record it again. I tried to record in 4K. I got carried away with myself and the memory dropped out. I'm heartbroken, I really am. But don't worry, just keep watching anyway. Some little graphic will come up so you can keep enjoying it as an audio version. You'll just miss the video, okay? But you don't have to switch to Spotify or anything. You'll get the full episode. I'm very sorry. Mistakes happen, but we're learning from them. We're getting better. One day I'm going to upgrade to a camera that can handle more memory, and to help with that, just quickly, the Inline G podcast is free and always will be free. That's a guarantee. However, if you want to donate to the podcast, you can now do so through the Patreon. On the screen now is the address, and for the audio listeners, it is patreon.com/the Inline G Flute podcast. It costs £5 a month. That's it. And with that, you're keeping this podcast alive. You get 4 episodes a month of this podcast. Come rain nor shine. Every Friday I've got an episode for you. So if you listen to all 4 and you think, oh, I'd buy Gareth a pint if I saw him in the pub to say thank you, do it digitally. This is the definition of a small independent podcast. I do everything around here on my own. And with those donations, you are paying me for my work as an artist, which is incredible in the modern world to be able to make money off it. And it means I don't have to have sponsors on here. Because when I try to approach sponsors, I'm told, you can't say this, you can't say that, please don't talk about mental health, please don't swear, all that kind of stuff. We don't have to worry about that. This can be a self-funded podcast, and it is on the limit of becoming totally self-funded, where I'm not even going to ask for sponsorship anymore. There's so many patrons now that is becoming a reality. So please, if you can afford it, go sign up over there. You can unsubscribe at any time, okay? So if you hit unsubscribe, you're not going to get charged for the next month. There's no weird payments. You're just out. Okay, and then you can jump back in when you can afford to again. So if you can afford it, please sign up over there. It means the world to me. Thank you to everyone who's there already. If you can't afford it, don't worry. You can keep listening for free. You won't miss out on anything. The patrons do not get extra episodes. Everyone gets the same podcast. It's a system based on kindness and soundness. And quickly, lads, as usual, if you're on Flute Center buying anything, throw in the code IN9G at the checkout and see what discounts you get, or check in the bio to see what you'll get there. Now, I can't believe I'm saying this, guys. Here is this week's Inline G Flute podcast with Greg Patillo.
You know, Seattle has a very temperate winter. It doesn't really snow.
Yeah.
And I figured out as a teenager that I could play my flute on the streets for money.
Is that why? Okay.
And I did it in Seattle, and I would do it on the weekends, and I would do it, like there's a big famous fish market at the Pike Place.
Okay.
Street Market. And they have a lot of like local street fairs and things downtown, like where the Space Needle is, Bumbershoot, Folk Live. And I used to watch all these kind of vaudeville like performers.
Okay, like on the street as well?
Yeah, and they would like jugglers and acts, or like, I don't know if you're, do you know Artist the Spoon Man?
No.
He was on, do you know who Soundgarden is? The rock
I know the
band?
Soundgarden, yeah.
And they had a tune called Spoon Man, which features a man playing the spoons. That was Artist the Spoon Man. Yeah, and he used to have an act he would do, and he would play and like do this. And I used to watch people do this and be like, I want to do that on the flute. How am I going to be entertaining on the flute? And that has driven a lot of my music making over the years, and still I play in the New York subways. I love, it's like my favorite gig in the world is playing in the New York subways.
You still do it?
I do it on a regular basis. I love to do it.
Nice. Do you get recognized when you're doing it? Do people ever go, oh, there's the guy?
No, well, so how my career ended up happening in New York was because of what I was doing in the subways. I was working at a grocery store. And when you got a square job, it's 9 hours, and then you got to commute there, and you get a lunch, and so when are you going to blow long tones? And so I would bring my flute and play in the subway at night, and then my act in the subway ended up being my videos that first got famous. Yeah. Because someone let me get half an hour of video time, and I played my set. And nowadays in the subway, I only play classical music in the subway. I drop my boy off at school, and then it's 8:30, and I blow for 2 hours. I play the Telemann fantasies and the Bacche minor partita. I have them memorized. It takes
Seriously?
1 hour to play. I don't look at my phone. I play for an hour. I chug some coffee. I play for another hour.
That sounds lovely, yeah.
I make a little bit of money. I'm making people happy. They just love this, and it's so beautiful in the subways. So, and it's good for memory and foundational work. And I really, when you have tunes memorized, you can work on breathing concepts, tone concepts, memorization concepts.
True.
And I love it. There's zero pressure. It's
true,
like ends up being like it's my kids' petty cash. You know, if they want pizza, it's like I got a bunch of dollar bills
that I made from playing Telemann today. Yeah. But when you say you play Telemann and like back and stuff, are you doing beatbox versions?
No. So
pure straight.
Yeah, straight. I've always wanted to have those memorized. I do now, and
wow.
I really now that I have them square, I'm really jumping into how to be. Ornamenting them. I listen to a lot of period instrument Baroque flutes to try catch what some people got some really cool concepts with those tunes. You can really take them and run with them. And the Baroque era was our time to shine for flute players. Yeah. Kings played flute. You know what I'm saying? And we have all this great rep, and you can be really experimental with it. You can improv off it. You can take the line and just jump with it. And when you really know it inside, like you haven't memorized, you can play with the breathing and the nuance and you can really make it new every day that you play it.
Exactly. It's not a million miles away from what you're doing with the beatbox stuff as well. There's such an improvisatory nature to it as well, and so much freedom. Do you get that? Do you think playing beatbox stuff has made that easier to do that kind of stuff?
Well, it certainly made me stop caring what other people think. I mean, I get more. I'm here. We're at the flute convention, and people are like, "Oh, why don't you play some Telemann?" It's like I get mortified trying to play it in front of some professor somewhere that's like, that Greg, he shouldn't play with that tone, or That's
exactly what would happen.
But in the subway, nobody cares, and I could do whatever I want to, and it's really freeing.
Sure.
And I love it, and that's something I approach with beatbox. As much as I try to teach people how to do it, not too many people are doing it, and so I can really just be myself, and I don't have to be hung up too much about doing it right or wrong. I just do my bit, and people are like, "Whoa!" And if they didn't like it, they're at least like, "Wow, that was a lot of energy," or something.
You're not going to get someone saying, "Excuse me, it was actually a B flat in bar 14."
Yeah.
Awesome. And you're saying not many people are doing the flute beatbox thing, but I'm sure you're aware of the other people that have popped up over the years. Do you know Alexi, the French guy, Alexi Sorba?
Yeah, I actually.
I just thought of him because he's a friend of mine.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
I haven't seen this guy in a long time. Yeah. But we met online, and I was going to be doing a flute, a flute weekend in Nice, France. And he took the train from Lyon all the way to Nice, and we hung out on the beach.
Nice.
And rapped and hung out, and then went to the park, and then totally made a video or two sitting around.
That video coming out.
And we had a lovely time. And honestly, I wish I could do that all the time. Just meet people that are just trying to jam out, hang out, make up something, shoot a video, high five, and be like, "Nice, man!
That
I hope
fun,
people like this video." And so I wish that guy, man, nothing but love. And
he's such a cool guy, man.
And the French are ascendant now in the beatbox world. All these people keep all the big time beatboxers, the guys that keep winning, they're French.
Okay.
And I don't know what it is. I know that I think on flute. So I think speaking French really helps flute playing. And I think it's because how they phonate in the nose and what they're doing back in the throat. It's just like
100%.
With the
it is. It's very shaped towards the embouchure and stuff.
And we don't speak that way in English. And all of our American heroes, really, everyone's studying Taffanel Gobert. Those are French dudes. And Moïse, he has a whole lineage of folks too.
Yeah.
And I think there's a big reason why it popped up the way it did in the end of the 1800s.
Yeah.
And I think in beatboxing as well,
you think it's
different
somewhere,
languages. You know, I think Galway, who's like a descendant of Moise.
Yeah.
I think because of his, he's Irish, as you know.
Yeah,
I think because of how he phonates. There's very far forward in the mouth.
Yeah.
And not like I can do an Irish accent.
That sounds a bit more like a 1920s New York gangster.
Okay,
yeah.
Forgive me. But I think it really, if you pay attention, it really serves his sound. It's like a secret.
Do you think so?
I do.
I've had this conversation with a few people because I soften my accent, but I'm from Belfast as well, where Jimmy's from.
Oh.
And it is very like nasal.
Yeah.
My normal accent's a bit more nasal.
Okay.
And a couple of people have said to me like, that can impact your sound and it might be a reason for it, but I never dug deep enough to find out if that's true or not. Well, I'm positive with the French.
I have really strong opinions about it. Because I'm a big fan of these Moise, the people that come from his teaching lineage. And it's not a sound you hear all the time in America. And it's like bright and big and soaring and beautiful. And I think there's a resonance above the hard palate that's done in the front of the face and the nose. And when I tried to play with that sound, I tried to put a vacuum in my nose. I tried to collapse my nose into my hard palate, which rings in like the third eye area.
Yeah.
And if you bring that forward in the mouth, and everything I've seen of him talking, you know, he's not talking about the throat or anything. He's just like, you just blow. What are you talking about? Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah. It's really easy for a guy that sounds like $1 million to just say blow.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think that's a big part of it. It's a big secret of the sound is above the hard palate in the front of the face. Yeah. And it's interesting to hear that you're talking specifically about nasal situation because I think that's exactly what it is.
There you go, yeah.
I really do.
Yeah, because my old teacher back in Belfast talked about this a lot because he was like, he's a bit older than Jimmy, but he says all the Northern Irish, especially the north of Ireland, because we're very much more here. Yeah. He was saying he reckons that's also part of like to do with the vibrato speed as well.
Yeah.
And where everything comes from. He says it's a very fast vibrato that I'm sort of like, I would love to pull on that thread a little bit more and like do like proper research into it because it's definitely true with the French. It's 100% true. I'm convinced the French sound comes from the French language, or it certainly helps anyway. Yeah. And I'm thinking, I wonder if the Irish one's a bit of a secret as well, a bit of a secret weapon.
Yeah, I love it.
But then some American accents are quite forward. You get like hard R's and quite like nasal ones as well. Yeah.
You know, I feel like a lot of Americans, though, they use the above the hard palate differently, more in the back, like above the soft palate.
Okay.
Is more of like a, I don't know, if we want to get into big generalizations, like a big part of American orchestral sound comes from the Kincaid School.
Yeah.
And his students, my teacher was Joshua Smith.
Yes.
He studied with Julius Baker, who studied with Kincaid, and I hear that in their sound. It's different than a Moise technique. And it's beautiful. I'm not saying anything's better or whatnot, but I sit around trying to emulate other people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do they sound like how they sound? And part of this, I play in the subway, and I'm like, well, how would I sound like this person today? How would I sound like this person today?
That's so
and
good. You do
I
the
listen
subway,
to
man.
I listen to a lot of flute music, and
Seriously?
I mainly only listen to classical music.
Okay.
And lately, I've been really getting into actual like transverse flute music, like old school Baroque period instruments.
Yeah. Any favorites? Anyone you're particularly enjoying?
Definitely. So there's a big star on the scene, Emmy Ferguson.
Yes.
Do you know who this is?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she's fantastic. So I don't normally go to flute concerts because I'm a flute player.
And plus everyone will recognize you as well as being.
No, I just whatever. I'm really like string music. I like string quartets and things like this. But
I'm learning a lot about you today, man. This is good.
I heard her play. She made an album with, it's called Fly the Coop with her and Ruckus, which is like a jam band
unbelievable.
of Baroque music. And I heard her on the radio. I always have the New York classical station on, WQXR, and I was like, what? And my favorite thing is to hear awesome people and find them on Instagram and be like, yo, I heard you spin on New York City. This sounds amazing. Yeah. And she wrote back. She was like, oh, thanks, blah, blah, blah. And then I thought she was European, but she lives in New York. I had no idea. And then I saw she was playing in New York, and I dragged my wife. I was like, I know this is crazy, but we're going to see a flute concert. We're going to see these guys. And it was so awesome. I'm a super fan. I wish I could listen to her music all the time. See her live is super inspiring. I want to get one of these flutes. I wish I had a whole side project with Baroque music.
Really? You're getting really into it, yeah.
And I think, and Juilliard, so she, turns out she comes out of this, Juilliard is a new early music program.
Yes, they do.
That used to be just, I guess, a master's program, is now undergrad. Yeah. And she's a graduate of this. And not only does she play well, she programs things and talks really. She has very thoughtful commentary. So I'm a super fan.
Yeah,
super
man,
cool.
so
if you guys don't know who that is, check her out. Her music's really amazing. I hope she makes a million more albums. She's fantastic.
Because I do. That's the only thing I wish. I wish there was a couple more albums with it. Yeah. Someone recommended that record to me like recently, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll give it a go. It's another Baroque Flute album, and I was like, man, what is this? It was great. So rock and roll.
It's so cool.
Actually, she's not here this weekend either. I was kind of hoping that was one of the ones I was sort of hoping would make an appearance at NFA.
I would have loved to high five
her. But there we are.
Man.
Actually, yeah. Speaking of that, I went to watch the Baroque Flute competition today here. To watch the final of it. It is so cool to watch.
I missed it, man.
It's so
I wish
cool.
I could have watched
it. It was so cool to watch just because of the final as well. In the semi-finals, they all played the same rep, but in the final, they chose their own rep. So they really picked pieces they're very passionate about. And I think in the Baroque world, they are a bit more passionate than we are in the classical world. They really get into it.
Yeah.
And you see the detail they go into with like their ornamentation, and they have, again, generalization, but it feels like they have a lot more fun sometimes than classical players. I was talking to one girl and she was saying, one of the reasons we switched over to Baroque is just because we're sort of, you get a bit overwhelmed by the modern flute world of competitions and always going for auditions and fighting, while the Baroque world is a bit more chill. Everyone just does their own thing. They turn up, they support each other, and you see that in their playing. You're like, man, this rocks. And you guys are having fun, and I'm having fun watching you. This is great, which I never thought I'd do, because normally if I'm like, oh, Baroque flute, really? But yeah. Have you got a Baroque flute?
It's cool.
Have you bought one yet, like a Baroque flute?
No, well, flute? No, I can't be buying flutes right now. But there's a number of sellers down in the exhibition hall.
I saw,
and I went and played, and I got some notes.
Out,
yeah, and they're totally affordable. Like
they are, that's what I was about to say.
It won't break the bank, but I play Sankyo flute. And I've had this flute since 2012, and I'm here at the convention with them. And one of the first things I did when I started hooking up with them was I asked, because it's very hard to find these in the States. I asked if they had in the vault in Japan. I talked to Yuka, and I was like, yo, do you have something in the vault that is a handmade, high-end, closed-hold C-foot flute that you would send me let me play? Because normally it's like they upsell you. If you're going to get a professional flute, chances are it's going to be B-foot, it's going to be open hole. It's not to say that they're not around, but you don't have as many choices as you 100%. Do. You walk down in the hall right now, everything's open hole, B-foot flute. Yeah. And so for what I do, I really like playing on student crappy flutes.
Okay.
The covered sound, especially if you're using a mic, is great for beatboxing.
Okay.
And having a closed hole is really fun when you're burning really fast, because you're not going to miss the holes.
Yeah.
The key's gonna close. It's going to close great.
And you know it's going to close,
I mean, I can play with a fine finger posture, but it's also fun to play with a crappy finger posture. Yeah. It looks good.
It does
It's
look
cool,
good.
Throwing hands up in the air and stuff like this. And they found this cool flute, a one-off flute that they made. The serial number is 12345, which is like the luggage in Spaceballs. And I don't know if
I've seen Spaceballs.
You get that reference?
Yeah, I get that one.
Like, I couldn't believe it. So I bought this flute recently, and I saved and saved. So now I'm in the doghouse. I can't buy any more flutes. But the next flute I'm going to buy is going to be a Baroque flute. So I'm making plans. I want to get one. I can't wait.
They are so cool.
But now I got these other flutes.
Okay, let's stick with Sankyo just for a second, because was that the first Sankyo you got? Or were you playing on Sankyo before?
Well, I worked for another company for a really long time, since my videos blew up in 2007. And at one point, they had me sit in a room, and they're like, try all these flutes, and if you like one, maybe we'll give it to you. And then they left. And so I spent a couple hours trying all these flutes, and they were the Sankyo distributor. And I was like, what? These flutes are sick. And I'd never heard of Sankyo. Yeah. And the CEO came back in. He's like, what do you think? I was like, yo, these flutes are awesome. And he was like, he got all rough. He's like, but you can't have that flute. It's like expensive.
Yeah. I'll take the 24-karat gold one, please. Yeah.
Oh, well, okay. And I was like, dang, okay. And then And then not long after that, Eva Kingma, maybe you know who this is.
Oh, yeah.
And she makes low-end flutes, and she also makes quarter-tone flutes.
Yes.
And she had made a quarter-tone Sankyo flute that she lent me, and I played it on our second album with my trio.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I finally got one. I'm playing it. I was like, this is so sick. And then she's like, I need those flutes back. I was like, oh. And I sent it back. And then around 2012, I had met, around the dealer. It was just like a dude, Lawrence Lee. Yeah. And we hung, and he was cool. And he's like, well, come by. I got 3 flutes. You can try them out. And I was like, okay. And I showed up, and he's like, well, Gary Shocker was just here, and he said this was a really good combo. And I was like, oh, okay. And I tried this flute, and I was like, this is a good combo. I love this flute. And within half an hour, I was like, I'm buying this flute.
But what's the combo? What do you mean by combo?
He'd put not the head joint that was normally coming on that flute. So I'm a little bit, I don't know always what the wall thickness of all these things, but I know it's a 901 flute, but it's just a sterling silver head. It's not some heavy walled, heavy body. It's a 925 head joint on their biggest density silver flute. Okay. And I was like, this is the loudest thing I've ever played. And I was like, man, if I buck up, if I spend the money on this flute, I'm going to be able to unlock sounds and style on a flute that I can only dream of. Yeah. And it's been 12 years since then, and it's true. It's totally changed my playing. It's enabled me to absolutely find the sounds I want to find. Yeah. And I've been secretly playing it all these years because I worked for this other company for so long. Okay. And then would just be like, yeah, I play their flute, but really I play Sankyo. Oh, and so now we don't work together anymore since the pandemic. And I saw the Sankyo peeps were rolling through the Flute Center in New York. And I was like, hey, can I come by and say what's up? I would love to, I play your flute. Is there any way we could do something? And they were thrilled to work with me. We've done a couple of things, and I'm here at the convention with them. I did the showcase talking about it with them, and they're just lovely people.
They are, man. They are.
They just overhauled my flute last summer.
Oh, nice. Yeah, because they are, you want someone who knows what they're doing with the Sankyo to get a look at a Sankyo. You want a proper expert.
Every time my flute starts failing, I just think it's my fault, because it's not like we play the clarinet. I've seen dudes overhaul their mouthpieces on stage, barrels, rings, reeds, and on a flute, you're like, here's my flute. If it's not working today, it's my fault. I didn't have enough salt. I slept on my face funny, whatever it is, man. I don't know. And so my low notes aren't sealing, and it's like, man, I'm slipping. Yeah. I don't know what's wrong. And they were like, well, send it in for a clean oil and adjust. And I was like, oh, I'd love to. And they were like, yo, you need an overhaul on this thing. And I was like, oh, I do. Great. Okay, it's
That's
not
a relief.
Me.
Yeah.
Those low notes weren't popping out because nothing was sealing.
Now that you're saying that, actually, I need to get a service on my flute. You've just reminded me. It's funny, though, because I've been talking to a couple of Sankyo artists recently, not deliberately, not working for Sankyo, just by chance. Because I got Julien Boudimont on. Oh, he was saying, I live in Cologne, he was visiting, so I got Julien on. And then I was like, oh, man, I love Sankyo. And then Sankyo got in touch, we saw your episode, you were bigging up Sankyo. And I was like, man, yeah, I always pick up Sankyo. But I play on one. I had someone else today, I had Merdad today, and everyone has the same story. They're always saying, I played Sankyo first, loved it, and then reached out to them and went, by the way, I play this, just wanted to say hi. And that's how they got involved. So it's not Sankyo going and finding players. Yeah. It's just all these top players play Sankyo by themselves and find it, which I think is cool.
You're right.
And it's they still it's not a hidden gem. We all know who Sankyo are, obviously, but I feel like they don't have that big name status as some of the other makers. But they have that reputation as being the flute player's flute. You know what I mean? The artist flute.
I know.
Which I love. It's a bit of an underground thing.
Really hot flute players, and they play it, and I'm like, that's so cool. I was listening to, I got caught into listening to Karl Böhm. He's a conductor. He used to conduct for Vienna back in the day. And there was this flute player, and he was playing, and they have this great, I found it on YouTube. They're playing Beethoven 7 at the Innsbruck 68 Winter Olympics. Ooh. And this, I finally found a video of this flute player because I heard him on a bunch of recordings, sounding great. And I love it when these flute players, it's like an old school aesthetic. this guy's playing in the orchestra with like little to no vibrato.
Yeah.
And flute players are like, me, look at me. And it's crazy enough they're playing a metal flute when all the woodwinds are wood and they stick out.
Yeah.
And it's so, clarinets don't play with vibrato.
No.
And it's crazy.
And they can, but they don't.
Right. And usually horns don't either. Funny enough, it's
really
kind of
either.
weird how that works. Well, anyway, this guy's playing, beautiful sound, no vibrato. And I'm like, who is this? And I put it out on the internet. Nobody knew. And I was bummed. I was talking to the Sankyo people and they're like, oh, we know the people in Vienna. They all play Sankyo flutes.
They do. That's right.
And I was like, you're kidding me. These guys are like amazing, right? And so, and this cat was like, oh, I know exactly. He went into the archives like, oh, it's so-and-so. And I was like, it's so-and-so.
Can you remember?
I forget. I put it up on Twitter because once I knew, I found out.
You get me hyped up now. I want to go find it.
It's on my Twitter. I could look because I was like, yo, world, who is this guy? And I like took screenshots from YouTube.
Man,
who is this cat? Because you don't hear this style of flute playing anymore, but you
rarely.
do in old records, and it's such a beautiful affect in the orchestra. Like non-vibrato. I mean, it's in there a little bit, but oh, so cool. Oh, it's so cool.
I'm definitely more like pro little vibrato.
Yeah.
Or I think if you save a moment with no vibrato, it's so special because it means you listen. You don't hear it anymore. You listen. You're like, oh, that is just dropping it in the top, man. Oh. It's gorgeous.
I believe in just having a whole palette of colors that you could choose from.
With them, yeah.
You can be like a musical chameleon.
Yeah.
And if you can actually use what's appropriate or what you think is interesting, it's way more. It gives you so many more options than just doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, man, I totally agree. Right, I have to go back. I know you're probably sick of talking about these earlier videos, right? But for me doing this podcast, I was such a fan, man. I cannot tell you. I met you yesterday. I was telling you, like, when I was younger, I think your videos, like your first big videos that sort of blew up, the Inspector Gadget one.
Yeah, it was.
Is that 2007?
Yeah, it was.
Around then? Yeah, so I was about 15 when it came out.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm from outside Belfast, like rural Ireland. And my friends who are not flute players were sending me these videos.
Right.
Like, these videos got everywhere.
Yeah.
They were proper viral. And first of all, it's really cool to be able to chat to you just because for me, I'm like, oh yeah, man. Yeah. They inspired me so much back in the day. But can you run me through a little bit of what it was like when those videos, like, because they blew up. Okay. Like, I was actually checking before there.
Yeah.
One of them is 31 million views, the other like 26 million.
Yeah, yeah.
That's obscene.
Yeah, so look, the internet's changed a lot since then.
Yes. Which means,
so I put these up in December of 2006. This was before the iPhone was invented.
True.
And I met a film student at NYU in New York City, and she wanted music for her. She met me playing in the park. I was playing in Washington Square Park, just like being weird with people, as I do, and she was like, "Oh, I need music," and I was like, "Well, I would love it if someone would film me. There's this thing called the internet, and you can put videos up on like this YouTube thing, you know." And she's like, "Okay," and like I gave her music, I did stuff for her, and then she's like, "Okay, I got a black box theater and I got a video camera. If you roll through, I'll give you 45 minutes of time." And like I'm saying, I played my. I think we were talking about. I played my set that I was playing in the subway.
Yeah.
And I was working at Trader Joe's at the time, which is a grocery store, and played down my set. And she like messed with the Mario one, and the other one she put them up, and nobody cared. And it was like, but I was like, my idea was like, now I can give people my name and they can Google it and find my video, because I'm trying to be like, I'm beatboxing on the flute and nobody knows what that means.
Yes.
Okay. So cut to about April 2007. I'm literally working at Trader Joe's in New York. It's like a grocery store, and they're very small. And in New York, there's no parking lot. Okay, the store is packed, and it's so small that the line snakes around the entire store. Yeah. So someone's job is to stand at the end of the line with a sign that goes up to the ceiling. So wherever you are in the store, you can find where the end of the line is and work your way over there and stand in line for 20 minutes until you can check out. Okay.
Got the picture.
I'm the end of the line sign guy. On a random day.
Nice.
And someone's like, "Oh, I just saw you on YouTube." And I'm like, "What?" And like this happened like all day. And this is before internet phones. I call my wife and I'm like, "Yo, everyone keeps saying they saw me on YouTube." And back then, YouTube isn't like now. It was just like one page. And if you got on the main page, you stayed there until it was replaced by something else, kind of linear.
That's
and
right,
so it was like this video, and if you got featured, it was there until you got bumped off. And so I got like 1 million views in less than a week. And like everyone recognized me.
And the video's already up for a few months at this point as well.
Yeah. I was not putting it up thinking about anything.
Okay.
I was just trying to get people to like, if I gave them my
to
card, maybe they'd like look. Yeah. Okay. And within 2 weeks, I quit my Square job. I got hired by Simon Hammerstein, who's the son of like Rodgers and Hammerstein.
Like the Rodgers and Hammerstein?
Yeah. It's his grandson. He made a like a very scandalous vaudeville club called The Box in the Lower East Side in New York. And I went to work at midnight, and I got home by 5 a.m. And I'd work 7 nights a week, and I was one of the few acts that like didn't take off their clothes, and it was like celebrities. It was kind of like a Studio 54 vibe. Like, you couldn't even get in if you had money. You had to have money and look good. It was this crazy event.
Any celebrities you can remember being there?
Oh yeah.
Can you give me some?
Oh sure.
Just to give me a vibe.
Yeah, well, like...
Who's knocking about in 2007?
Okay. I'm going to do really bad now. Okay, who's the dude in Titanic? The main dude. Leo.
DiCaprio.
Okay.
Yeah.
That dude walked up the stairs being like, nice job, bro, and patted me on the back.
Leo DiCaprio?
Yeah.
You play?
I'm like, okay, that's awesome. Or
that is awesome.
Claire Danes, or like Ja Rule.
Ja Rule, man.
Who's the guy, what's his name? Oh, man. A bunch of actors from like 2008, 2007 era. And it was like
proper
happening.
A-listers, though.
It was just like happening, man. And it was... there was the guy that ran it was this androgynous guy with like ripped with tattoos all over, and like from Cirque du Soleil, and there was a band, dancing showgirls, and there were like stripping acts and like live sex acts, and it was like insane.
And then in the middle of all this, you're rocking
dude is very famous now, Reggie Watts. He's like a beatboxer. He ran the music in James Corden's show, and he was in Comedy Bang Bang. And he's on TV, and like he was a performer there. We used to do like a little act together. I used to watch him. I mean, that guy is super big and famous now, and it was this wild scene, and like I was just a guy from a grocery store playing the flute, like. And
you were getting up and doing a beatbox flute set.
Yeah, they gave me a character because I wouldn't shave off my mustache and goatee. They're like, okay, you're Vasily, you're from St. Petersburg, and you are a Russian flute player, and I would come out and do like a classical bit. And then I would do like a beatbox thing, and then it would transition into CeeLo's Crazy. I think you're crazy. You know, that was like a big hit at the time. Yeah. And then we were like, we closed the first half. And then that rolled for a couple of months. And then I was getting my trio together at the time. And I was like, they were kind of getting sick of my bit. And I was like, but wait, there's more. What if I bring my trio? And they were like, okay. And so then we did a bit. We were the St. Petersburg Chamber Orchestra.
Did they have to be St. Petersburg as well then?
Yeah,
did they get
and we all had Russian names. And Raven, he was the MC, he would introduce us. And we'd come out and do a straight bit, and then we'd rock it, and then so I played this gig for like maybe 8 months, and then the big crash happened. This all happened right, so it was like the end of the excess,
like the ultimate decade to just cut.
2007, and then by 2008, New Year's was my last show there. I was done with it. They were done with us. And that's about how long it takes to sync, like the things we were doing with our group. So our group got together, we made an album. I'm in a group called the Project Trio. And we were like, we'd love to hire you next, in 8 months. And that's how it kind of works with that, with that kind of booking. And so, and then that was it. We started working together as a trio, and that's kind of how my career evolved with a big bang. I'm not very active on YouTube as much anymore, but along the way, I got married, I have kids, and I've been very focused with the trio, and now I don't do all the solo things. But now my kids are starting to get older. I got a 13-year-old, I got an 8-year-old. No, they ain't playing flute. But my daughter, she's very musical. She sings, play guitar, play piano.
Oh, cool. Okay.
My wife plays piano. My son, he got it's called the slizzer roll when you go. which is like an inhaled tongue
he
roll.
Can do that.
Yeah, he just busted it out the other day, and I was like, "My man, what's up?" And so like maybe he makes all sorts of weird mouth noises, so he might be a latent beatboxer. We'll have to see what's up with that.
Man,
he's got charisma. I think he could run a stage a little bit. We'll see. He's still young.
But is he hearing you doing it around the house? Then he's like, "I'm going to give that a go because my dad's doing it."
I'd be making a lot of noises around the house.
I can imagine you would. Yeah,
and he hears, and I try to egg him on, but no one wants to be doing what their parents are talking about.
Yeah, it's ultimately
But he's still young enough to think I'm cool. In a couple more years, and I'll just be like crusty dad, probably.
Yeah, but it's inevitable, isn't it?
I think so.
You can't get away from that. Doesn't matter who your dad is; he's always uncool for a while.
Well, so look, they're getting older. That's why I'm here at the convention by myself. I've been coming with my trio all these years.
Yeah,
pretty much since 2008. And now I'm starting to do more solo things. I got a lot to say. I got a lot of things to teach and talk about. I've been writing a bunch of books.
Oh, you've been writing books?
Man, I got 4 books. I got a whole... I just self-publish them, so like they're not really like getting. I don't have like Shot is not publishing them, and like you're Universal or whatever. I don't know. And
like education, like
I got
like method books.
Yeah, I got a method book that's like almost 50 pages that talks just about the basic 5 sounds. I got the 3 beats, which is like a tune I wrote for high school kids.
I heard that the other night. It rocked. Yeah,
and I wrote out 4 etudes. It's like 4 things I did on YouTube that weren't covers, so I had the rights to it. Like I can't write out Super Mario Brothers, and
of course you can.
I mean, I just give it away.
Yeah,
but I can't like.
If you made money off it, Universal will be coming after you big time.
Right. Yeah. So I don't mess with that. And I just made a new book called like 32 Vamps, like a vamp jam using beatbox and vamps and how to use that an improvisational thing. And I got ideas about I got a bunch of other like one-off tunes that I haven't published that I'm just trying to give out. Everything I've been doing over the past 5 years has been on Patreon. That's behind a paywall.
Cool. What's your Patreon?
It's Greg Patillo at Patreon. And I've made like over 300 videos on Patreon.
Ah, nice. Okay.
And people that know. Yeah. And some people join and some people quit.
Yeah.
And it's a really weird thing for me. I don't really like it, but every month I'm putting up stuff. I'm putting up tunes. I'm putting up my thoughts on flute playing and all this stuff. But now it's been so long, like, man, people don't know who I am, or like old heads know who I am. But like I can go and like entertain people and be like, wow, who are you? And then they're like, look at this cool video from 18 years ago or whatever. It hasn't been
the
that long.
Younger generation aren't going to be finding it. Yeah.
Well, so I'm kind of jazzed up. We don't really use our YouTube channel. I kind of like everything I did with that YouTube channel. I just like gave it to the trio. Okay. And was like, let's use this to make our trio work. Yeah. And it's now that channel is the Project Trio. Yeah. And we have a bunch of great videos out there from the Project Trio. But now
also great albums, by the way. Like I remember because
we got a bunch. We had 6 albums that we made.
Because I remember when like the videos went big, and then the first Project Trio album must have been quite short after that. A couple of years, it was maybe a year or so.
We made it that summer.
Winter in June. When was
that was it. My man, that's what it was. Yeah.
I'm telling you, I don't think you understand how big you were in Ireland for a long time. And then when you brought the album, we're like, oh, he's doing something else. It's cool. Everyone bought it.
Oh, that's so
Everyone
cool.
I know bought it, man. That's like there was that song, that tune "Sweet Pea" on it.
Yeah,
that's stuck
definitely.
in my mind
that's
for
a good
years,
one.
Man. Like it was unbelievable to have that. And then I followed Project Trio since. I know you guys do a lot of educational stuff now as well, don't you?
We do. We love to. Yeah.
Are you doing like workshops in schools or what's the crack with that?
Well, look, there's a lot of artists out there doing. Everyone's got their own different spin on how to go out there, how to make money. You can't really sell albums anymore, right? Like everything has changed since back then. We found that we had a talent. We had an interest in education. Okay. So we like to perform. Yeah. And we like to educate. And one of the main things we like to do is we like to talk about improvisation to classical people that don't know anything about improvisation, but they all secretly want to do a little bit of improvisation.
But they're terrified of
it. And the thing is that classical people don't know their theory. Maybe they practice their scales, and maybe they do their arpeggios. But like there's a reason why they're not doing a bunch of jazz tunes. They can't parse a bunch of sevenths. They can't go between keys. They can't change keys.
Totally agree.
And I don't mean this in a detrimental way. I'm just calling it as it is.
It's just not.
That's not what you study.
It's 100.
If you
it's
play
not part of the education.
scales, it's not to understand harmonic motion or how scales work.
No,
it's how to get fingers, evenness on tone between
Yeah.
3 octaves on the flute, getting evenness on, getting good breathing.
Yeah.
Okay, all these things are great things. And so what we like to do is talk about improvisation to people that don't know anything about theory.
Okay.
And you don't need to know anything about scales. You need to know.
Even like non-musicians, people are like,
dude,
totally.
so we can outreach to middle school students, like 6th grade students, like people that
crowd.
are 11
Yeah.
and 12. So like you get a big artist that comes, and then the scene is then, well, I want to do a master class.
Yeah.
And the big artist wants to outreach to the people that can play well.
Yeah.
And not a lot of them want to be working with a kid that's only been playing for 2 years.
Which
look, a lot of people do, but
that's where it matters.
We love to work with these people because we can. Because the fact of the matter is, you can make amazing music having no idea what you're doing.
100%. Yeah.
And you don't ever have to take a lesson in your life.
Man, I think
and
it's only
you can make
classical.
music
Yeah.
that'll change the world.
I totally agree. But I think it's only classical music that we don't have that attitude. Like every other genre of music, they just pick up their stuff and bumble their way through it until it sounds good.
Right.
Every great rock band in history has just started as like 4 lads in a garage.
Look, you can listen to Paul McCartney talk about how he makes up stuff, and he's like, and then I did this, and isn't that wild? And I have no idea what I'm doing. And
Him
a bunch
and
of
John
theory
just
wonks
sitting
are
there.
like,
Yeah.
oh, he's doing inversions, and isn't that crazy? And it's like,
Exactly,
you
yeah.
can just make stuff that sounds cool and do it.
That's it.
And so this has been our approach in talking about improvisation. It doesn't matter what instrument, you can come to our class, we can do improvisation. I can get anyone to play really complicated rhythms if they just use their ears and listen to it. If you look at a book and try to read these rhythms,
totally
it's really hard to read.
Yeah.
Any cool syncopated rhythm is super hard to read, but they're easy to emulate if you just hear it.
100%.
And so, man, you can get kids to do complicated things. You can dish off cool harmony things. They might not know what they're doing, but they're doing
They're
it.
vibing,
and
they're getting it.
And like all I want out of this is to inspire people to pull out the instrument from the case and play it. Find an audience. Find a way to impress people. Even if you're an introvert, impress yourself. Bedroom rock. Why not?
There you go.
And we get hung up, when we're studying music, we get hung up for, once you get old enough, you realize you didn't do it right. You didn't practice right. Your teacher doesn't like it. You don't know why they don't like it. And then you want to be like, okay, let's just make up a bunch of music. And they're like, I can't do it. I'm going to do it wrong. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And like, how do we break that mindset?
Yeah.
Music, until the recorded music when you played it was gone forever.
That's it.
It was
It was a
very
moment in time,
ephemeral thing. It was just, once you did it, it was gone. And that was the beauty of music. It was something that you did in the now, and then it was gone. And so you'd get these great scores of old people, and you'd have to recreate it now. And now with recorded music, and I have a problem with this too. Like I get nervous playing music that people know, but like, it's a different mindset. It's a beautiful mindset. It's an old school mindset. And so this is something our trio does. We play live concerts. We're out there teaching and educating and trying to inspire. And we've, there's a lot of ways to make a music career over the years. And there's people, you can play cruise ships, you can do assemblies, you can play in front of orchestras, you can play in weird nightclubs.
Well, apparently so,
But
you could say your name's Vasily
in
from St.
the
Petersburg.
end, you just got to keep doing it so that when you look back, you're still doing it. What can you do to stay in the game? And you might have to be flexible over the years. Times change, tastes change, technology changes, audiences change. And so how can you roll with that? How can you stay in the game? And
Have you guys found it hard over the years to keep up with all those shit? Because you got, like, Project Trio have been going for a while now. Like,
yeah, well, look, and we ain't getting any younger, and technology is like a young man's game, you know, like, and then you're like, oh, what's Snapchat or what's TikTok, or like, what are all these things, and like, are they important? And I don't know, or is it, you know, because when I was coming around, Facebook was really big, and then and then Facebook was like, no, now you need a business account. No, instead, now you need a band account. No, instead you need, and then like, it's like, okay, you know what? Screw all that. I don't want to mess with that anymore. Okay. You know, but you have to stay in the game. So it is difficult, and our bass player Peter Seymour is an incredible businessman as well as an incredible bass player and arranger and a composer. Yeah, and he's a good driver too. And nice, okay. So he's the brains of the operation. He is so good at booking us and doing things with us. So I've been able to make money with my group and raise a family. Since the pandemic, we've had a personnel change. And we were sitting around, and Peter was like, man, what we need is a tenor sax player. And I was like, we do? Yeah, and he's like, definitely. Yeah. And I was like, okay, man, if that's look, you book it, man. You tell me what you think we need, and I'm like, where am I gonna find a tenor sax player? I don't go out at night. I put my kids to bed and stay at home and make sure like they're safe. And so in New York City, we have all these great parks, and in all the parks there's playgrounds. So I destination playground with my kids. We'll go to Washington Square Park, and there's great playgrounds. And Washington Square Park, there's all these great jazz players. So I took my kids to Washington Square Park, and they're playing in the playground. These cats are playing jazz over there. I'm like, stay put. I'm gonna go check out these jazz guys, right? And I walk over there, and there's a little trio playing. It's like drums and I think a trumpet and a sax player. This sax guy was ripping, but on top of that, he had the biggest smile on his face and was having like a blast playing. Like, just emanating joy. Yeah. And I was like, and you know, I've played with a lot of cats over the years, and you can hire people that play amazing, and you can hire people that have good attitudes. And like, if the playing's there, man, good attitudes are where it's at.
100%.
And if you like hanging with people, you can make it work, man. There are things to make it work, because like, you got to sit in a lot of cars. You got to do a lot of things and hang with a lot of people. Yeah. And this guy was having a blast. And so he finished, and I went over and I was like, look, man. And I was like, look, can you read music? And he was like, yeah, bruh. And I was like, oh, okay. Because I knew he could improvise, but people have tricked me, and I've been like, oh, this guy can improvise, and then they can't improvise. They tricked me. They can only read music. So I was like, I know he can improvise, but can you read music? Because we got a bunch of charts or whatever. And I was like, all right, can you answer emails? And he was like, yeah, bro, I can answer emails. I was like, okay, let's hook up. If you can answer some emails, I'm gonna have my dude Peter. He's gonna write you, and if you can write him back, we can get you gigs. If you want to work with us, I know I'm just like some dude you're meeting in the street, and then he was like, oh yeah, the Project Trio. You're not going to believe this, but I'm from the suburbs of Chicago, and you played my middle school assembly when I was in,
no way.
Right? And me and my sisters have been doing Boots Cats for years, because you taught it in this assembly, Boots Cats, which is like a mnemonic I used to remember. Like,
I have to get on to that, man.
Is Boots Cats, and it's like a big like beatbox mnemonic. And he was like, okay, man, that's so crazy. I would love to work with you guys. And so that was like in the middle of the pandemic, and we would like do these Zoom things, and he learned our charts. And now his name's Daniel Berkey. This guy plays saxophone for a living in New York. He is the sickest bebop player. I mean, he will turn heads in any setting. This guy can cut, and it is so, and he, like I said, this guy's fun to hang out with. He's like 18 years younger than me. He's like, goes to the gym. He's like, takes things seriously. Like, people think he's like hot, I'm like, wow, that's cool. Good, man, go for it. Okay. He's like full of energy, and it's so cool. And so I'm a classically trained person that has kind of learned jazz on the side. I didn't study jazz, and I fake jazz really well. But you can tell, just like, they always ask for auditions in the classical world for the Mozart, G major, because you can tell in like 5 seconds whether people know how to do it or not.
Yeah.
And that's why they do it. It's not like it's amazing music.
No.
Mozart is known for not liking the flute.
Yeah, I think.
But you can tell right off the bat if someone, and
Straight
in the
away,
same way,
yeah.
if someone that knows jazz, they know if you're making the changes or if you're just jamming.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's super obvious.
Okay.
And this guy knows. Oh man, this guy keep me honest. He's like, gee, what are you doing? Like, oh man, can you at least come and play the correct chords? And I'm like, my bad, dude. I'm just over here jamming, playing pentatonics. He's like, maybe we can up it a little more. And so he keeps me on my toes, man. He's so inspirational for me to like, and I've been putting it off, but like really, making changes, playing changes, studying changes, and there's so much work to do. But like this guy, like, I'm pretty good with classical music. I can tell you can drop the needle, and I can probably get it within 20 years of what it is. Okay. Probably who it is, maybe even what it, who's playing. Yeah. Sometimes I can really do it, and he could do that with jazz. You listen into whatever, and he's like, oh, this is so and so on the set, so and so on the trumpet. Encyclopedic knowledge of jazz. He's got like 5 million tunes memorized, and he can write out solos just like on the plane, like without reference material.
Jazz players, like, it's obscene their musical knowledge sometimes. So like
cool, and this has changed our group. So we were a classical crossover group was kind of our bit, and now we're kind of like. We got that too, but we're a little more jazzy. And so we're experimenting now with what that means and with what our rep is and where we're going with that. And it's cool. It's like we've reawakened a joy in the group.
Which is great.
We love to hang out with, we spent, in that group, we spent years, we would go to the airport and not talk to each other.
Okay.
We would just be like, wouldn't say hi until we got to where we went, got the rental car, and then finally be like, hey, what's up? Yeah. And now, like, we go out to eat together, we're rocking together, we're hanging together, we're having a blast. It's all fun, it's all joy. I don't know if we're going to make a new record.
I was just about to ask.
Look, it's
really... the last record was a live one, wasn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
We did at YouTube Studios in New York, and that was a lot of fun to make. We videoed everything and we put it out. Oh man! And now
for a new one.
That studio doesn't exist anymore. They shut it down since the pandemic.
Okay.
And I don't know. The numbers don't work to spend money on a studio. And home recording, we can only go so far with that. And but. Peter's still booking us. We're still getting out there and we're still playing. We got a bunch of music. We're doing really cool stuff. And
you're still inspiring people apparently as well, yeah.
Well, we're trying, and it's cool. We got a big fall. We got a bunch of stuff cracking in the spring. We're busy. We're playing with a bunch of orchestras. We got a concerto on the way that'll happen in 2 years.
Like
we had a concerto with Adam Schoenberg that we did with 5. It was premiered with 5 orchestras back in 2016, and then we since played it with a number of orchestras. Okay. And it was a really cool tune, but now we got a different lineup. We got a new composer in mind. We're zeroing in on it, and that's really cool work playing in front of an orchestra. Yeah. You get a lot of people. Yeah. And like sometimes in the orchestra world and the classical world, their go-to shtick is not entertainment. It's like doing it authentic.
Doing it right, yeah.
Which is great, which is cool. But so like any kind of if I start rocking out in an orchestra hall, people are like, whoa, what is this? I saw it last night as well. Wow, what are these guys doing? Yeah. And so to bring that energy to an orchestra hall is awesome.
It must be so much fun as well.
I love it, and like I love orchestras, and I love being in front of them, and I always wanted to play in an orchestra, and now I occasionally play in front of orchestras.
In front of one.
So how about that?
Man, even last night when you were doing your medley set, like I was sitting just slightly off to the side, And it's so fun watching the teenagers react to it for the first time.
Yeah.
Because I remember having that reaction when I was younger. I never got to see you live because we talked about you never been to Ireland, but there was always like some beatboxy kind of thing coming in. Everything was inspired after what you did. It was always so fun watching like the teenagers see it for the first time. They're like, man, what's going on here? This rocks.
Yeah.
And then they get that little bit of confidence in me that like let out a woo or like, yeah, man. I'm like, yeah, you guys are rocking. Then you see the older people and they're like, what's he doing? I'm like, yes, this is bringing me back to band. It's great. Because it was inspiring. Like, I'll just finish this before I ask you the fun questions. But like, when you brought out the videos, originally the best thing about them was not like I didn't really want to go and learn beatbox flute. I didn't have an interest in doing that. But what I loved about it was it just made flute cool. I was like, man, people are talking about the flute again. It made me want to play flute more.
I dig it.
That's what that matters. I think I genuinely would have quit if that didn't come out.
You know, I hear that a lot. A lot of band directors talk about that. I'm a man, but I was a boy that played the flute.
I know you were.
In a sea of girls playing the flute.
True.
Which, at one age, was weird.
Yeah.
And then at one age, it was
great.
cool.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's like, I don't know if the flute is the instrument for me. It's all girls that play it, And so, and I get that a lot, and I hear that, and like, why? That's so silly. Like, why do people think about that? It makes whatever. But kids are weird. And and so like, man, that's cool. If I can make people think the flute is cool in any way, man, I'm so stoked.
Like, man, you made me think the flute was cool at a point in my life where playing the flute was not. I was like 14 when that came out, like 15, and like I was discovering girls and beer, which were much cooler than the flute. And suddenly the flute was cool. And I was like, man, I can use the flute to get girls. This might be the best thing in the world.
Playing the flute on beer is cool too.
Yeah, it is. I know. I've made a living off it. Man, before we go then,
okay,
I have some quick fire questions just to ask. I ask all my guests just to wrap it up.
All right.
Do you have a favorite flute concerto?
Oh,
it's a hard question. I know. It's. Is there anything you're vibing with particularly in the moment?
No, not in the moment, but when I was studying back in the day, the one that worked best for me was the Nielsen Flute Concerto. And it has some hot licks.
Yeah,
and Nielsen has a really unique voice. And like, I don't know, they don't really play a lot of his. You always hear Nielsen 4. I think that's his biggest.
That's what you hear.
Fourth Symphony. And his woodwind quintet is really
the
cool.
Quintet I've played, yeah.
And he wrote.
Is there something for clarinet as well?
I think he wrote sonatas for all, or was it?
Hindemith did that. He wrote.
Yeah, and Poulenc wrote a bunch for everybody. But
true.
No, in Nielsen it was everyone. I think in the quintet they were personalities of people he knew. I think that's what that
sounds right.
I'm mixing together.
Yeah,
but I played that a bunch in high school and in college, and it was always a really cool piece. And
to be fair,
yeah. Cool. So I'll stick with that.
Do you remember the first flute album that you bought?
Oh.
Or even that someone bought for you, you remember asking for money for, anything?
Okay, so here's a wild one. Okay, so because, I was really inspired by Jethro Tull.
Yeah.
I got tickets to see Jethro Tull when I was 16. It was like their 25th anniversary tour. It was so great. And Jethro Tull, or Ian Anderson is the fellow that plays flute and sings and plays guitar in Jethro Tull. And he, on his earlier record, I think maybe only the first one, he also played harmonica. Okay. And I knew about this, but hold on, I'm getting to a different album. Okay. So I was playing harmonica and flute, and on harmonica, you on one hole, it's a different sound whether you blow out or breathe in.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I learned to do like a like shuffling your breath in and out. Okay, which is now something I do on the flute a lot. So there was a dude. Let's see, John Mayall, who was a British bluesman. Okay. And Eric Clapton's first appearance was on the Blues Breakers album by John Mayall. Okay. And he wasn't singing, he was just playing guitar on this album. And John Mayall made an album called The Turning Point. And in The Turning Point, he does a harmonica bit, and he has a flute player playing in the band that also played saxophone. Yeah. And they have, at the end, the last track, he's like, and they're kind of like proto beatbox / rhythm fluting. And I bought this album. My mom was like, you should get this album. I think you'll really like it. And I bought that CD, The Turning Point. And it's a live album, and it's like acoustic. It's an electric bass, but everyone else is acoustic.
Okay.
And it's fantastic. And that was like a big part of like what I was like, I want to sound like this.
Yeah.
I want to do these cool sounds. And I like the way that sax players approach the flute. Like Rahsaan Roland Kirk, Herbie Mann, Sam Most.
True.
These are sax players that played the flute that didn't necessarily take a classical tonal pursuit of the flute. And because of that, it's really hard for classical people to sound like them.
Yeah.
And they're doing really cool things that make a lot of sense if you play saxophone. And so I've always really valued that sound.
Yeah.
Which I think is like a cool sound.
Cool is a good word to describe it.
And this cat I forget who he is that played on this album. He plays sax and he plays flute. And anyway, that was like a big inspirational album that I'll bet a bunch of you guys don't know about.
Yeah, I didn't know about
check it out. The
Good
Turning
one.
Point by John Mayall.
That's, man,
Not
the
Mayer.
first time I've heard that one.
John Mayer plays. He's
yeah.
a different dude. Mayall. Mayall, I think.
Okay.
Mayall.
Okay.
Mayall. Yeah.
And okay, well that leads me in my next question. It might be the same answer. Do you remember the first album in general that you bought that maybe didn't feature the flute? Was it the same album?
Oh, well, the first
record.
CD
Yeah, it
I
could be a
ever
single.
bought,
No.
because CDs cracked
Yeah.
right when I was getting into middle school.
Yeah.
Right when you start getting turned on to music
Yeah.
and realize
Yeah.
you can dance with the ladies and stuff.
Yeah.
And the first album,
You
I took my
try.
hard-earned money and I bought Paula Abdul's "Forever Your Girl," "Forever My Girl," "Forever Your Girl," "Forever Your
I know
Girl."
about
I
Paula
think.
Abdul. I don't think
Okay,
I
it
know that
was
song
like,
specifically.
Dun 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 dun.
Man, I'm loving it already. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And this was like, and the second album I bought, I kid you not, it was Milli Vanilli.
I have no idea who that is, man.
Oh my God.
There you are.
Okay.
Even for me, you've
Milli Vanilli. This is great. Milli Vanilli is a super famous act, and they won a Grammy for their album. And they were like, I think they were like German dudes.
Okay.
And they wore like sports coats over spandex, and they had long dreads, right? And they like danced and were all cool. And then it turned out like 2 years later that they didn't sing on their album. Oh. And they got their Grammys taken away, and it was a whole travesty. And they're like, were like shunned, and like it's just terrible. These guys, it's like, I think there's movies written about them because they had like this crazy fall from grace, but like they were like the coolest dudes ever in like 1989.
Yeah, see, my girlfriend, Sherman, she was telling me about some German band the other day that were huge in the States and then disappeared. And I can't remember their name. Maybe it's them then. Maybe that's who I'm thinking of.
These guys were so big. This was like in the time of like, Ice Ice Baby. Oh. That's when this came. This is that same era.
It must be the same thing because whatever reason,
Hammer Time.
Ice Ice Baby was how this conversation started with my girlfriend. It must be these guys. It must be that we're talking about.
New Kids on the Block was like a proto like boy band.
Yeah, New Kids on the Block still they rock.
Yeah,
man, they still rock.
So that was when I first started getting turned on to music. Paula Abdul.
Paula Abdul is great, man. I love that. Okay, next question. Do you have a karaoke song? If you had to do karaoke. Do you do karaoke? You karaoke, man?
I have done karaoke. I like to do, let's see if I can remember it. I like to do a Billy Ocean song.
Oh.
And which
Going Gets Tough? Tough Get Going?
No, that's a good one. That's from the movie. That's a good one. No,
there's another Billy Ocean song I was listening to just yesterday.
He had 3 hot singles. God, what? Because like I don't have a very good range, and I can sing. Oh God, what is it?
I'm gonna find it. I'm in Spotify here. Top Billy Ocean songs. I can't believe I'm googling this, man.
That's good. Go ahead.
Love Really Hurts Without You.
Nah.
No. Caribbean Queen.
Yeah, that's it.
How does Caribbean
Queen. Now we're sharing the same dreams, and our hearts can beat as one.
Do we do karaoke now? Let's go.
No more love on the run. And then you like dance and like do the heart beating thing, and yeah. That's
a great answer. Again, first time I've had Billy Ocean this. Okay, couple of questions left.
Okay.
If you could switch instruments but be as good as you are on the flute, what would you switch to?
Violin, hands down.
Yeah?
Done. End of. Violin is the dopest instrument on the planet.
Seriously?
It is the hardest instrument to learn.
It is the hardest.
And violin.
When it sounds good, it sounds
rep
so good.
is incredible.
The
and
concertos are wild.
I have a violin and I'm terrible at it. And I got it and my wife was so upset and she refuses to let me play it in the house. She hates it and I'm terrible. And I could spend 8 hours a day playing violin. I wish I could. I wish I could drop everything, learn to play the violin. Play the rep is incredible. I love string quartet music. Yeah. I love.
Oh, you were saying you're a big string quartet man?
I love string quartet music. I love all the Beethoven. I love the Brahms. I love the Ravel. I love
Beethoven
the Debussy.
violin concerto as well. One of my favorite pieces of all time.
Oh, the violin concertos are great. I listen to all sorts. I like all sorts of tones. I like Eastern European bow hand. I like American bow hand styles. I like Hilary Hahn or Henrik Schering or Oyster Rock. These are all totally different styles of playing.
Yeah.
I love violin music so much.
Man, I can tell.
So that's what I would do.
Quick
I would play the
answer as
violin.
well.
Oh, done. I would love it.
Okay, 2 questions left. If you could have a drink with any musician, alive or dead, who would it be?
If I could have
you sit in the bar just shooting with any musician.
I gotta say J.S. Bach.
Yeah, a lot of people say Bach, yeah. Why not? Like, it has to be Bach, doesn't it?
You know, but, so Bach is the easy answer, but like...
But it's the good answer as well.
Yeah, well, can I get a redo?
Go for it, I'll give you a backup one, yeah.
I would sit with Telemann.
Oh, okay.
Because, like, people maybe don't know, but, like, Bach was not famous back in the day. He, like, became famous. His kids were super famous.
Yeah.
He was like a backwater
all 300
weirdo.
of them, yeah.
And like his kid CPE Bach was super famous.
Yes.
Okay, and then
JC was quite famous as well.
Yeah,
wasn't he?
and Mendelssohn kind of brought him back with I think it was the B minor Mass, if I'm not, or
Man, you're testing my knowledge
the St.
now.
Matthew's Passion. One of those. He brought it back, and people were like, "Whoa, what is this?"
Yeah.
And so and actually in Leipzig they offered Telemann the job first.
I know this, yeah.
And he was like, "Nah, I'm cool. I'm going to Hamburg."
Yeah.
And Telemann he has the world record of the most compositions ever written.
Oh, really?
He has over 3,000 compositions written.
Man, you really know
over
your shit.
Half of which have
Putting
been
me to
lost
shame
to
here.
time. Right? And like his music is really cool, and his idioms you can catch them, like if you know the solo flute fantasies, you can catch him in a lot. He also wrote solo violin fantasies, and he has all sorts of all sorts of great music.
And all kinds
and
of stuff, yeah.
I would just love to talk to that guy about he was quite the capitalist in the sense that the reason we have these fantasies, they were one of his forays into printing music to sell. He printed books and sold it to the general audience. And so we have that because there is a print that exists, and they don't have the cover. And actually, the cover that it's in like some library in like Brussels or something that the original they have, and it says violin on it, but they know it's not a violin because it doesn't go below low D. Which the transverse doesn't go below low D. And so, because the violin goes to low G, if you don't know. Yeah. And so I would love to talk to him just about writing. His fugal writing is great. His transitions are great. And he was in a really sweet, in the late Baroque era, very interesting bridge right before Mozart comes around, true Viennese classicism. It would be just a really interesting, because, I'd talk to Bach and he'd be like, oh, let's talk about counterpoint. And I'd be like, I wish I understood what you were talking about.
But it would be fun, man.
It would be sick. But like Telemann, I think, could actually get on the level and be like, it's okay, man, check it out. Like, this is what you got to do. Yeah. You got to print books like this, and then like they'll
he's
buy
hustling,
them.
Man. Yeah.
That was his whole thing, man.
Yeah. That's a good answer. That's a good one.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, very last question then.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite drink, alcoholic or non-alcoholic? Doesn't matter which. What would you drink with Telemann?
Okay, so I love to drink. I don't drink very often.
Yeah.
Well, it comes and goes.
Yeah.
But these days I'm not. But when I do, my drink is I love to drink rum.
He's like a pirate?
Like a pirate, bro. I love to drink rum.
What, like dark rum or white rum?
Yes. Dude, I'll drink it straight. I like to drink it just like at home, I just drink it out the bottle.
What's your favorite rum?
Yeah. Oh, I like Jamaican rums. So,
we don't get them in Europe as much.
They have but you know, the French make really fancy rum.
Yeah, the Creole rum. Yeah, it's mad.
And you know, the British were serving rum on boats until like the ships, not boats. My bad. Some Navy cat out there. It's like boats.
Have you ever heard of a rum called VAT 17?
No.
It comes in a yellow bottle, man.
No,
It was made for the Irish market in the 90s, and then it disappeared for a long time. It was made in Trinidad. It was only made for the Irish market, and then it disappeared. And my dad stockpiled about 20 bottles.
Oh my gosh.
And I've been waiting to find someone who's tasted VAT 17, because apparently it was sold in the States.
My wife likes to vacation on beaches. So we've been slowly working our way around the Caribbean. Ooh. Every Caribbean island got their own rum.
Yeah.
Everybody makes it different. And it's like, it's truly different. I mean, so rum is just distilled sugar, but it really tastes different every place. And even just white, so it hasn't been, you know, they put it in like old bourbon or casks or something like that to give it the color. And it's fantastic. It's really great. It's great all blended with fruit.
It is.
It's great with
great cocktail.
It's great just with soda. It's great just with a twist. It's great to sip. It's great to shoot.
I don't think I've ever had like a good rum. I've only had like Bacardi and things like that. I've never had like a proper rum.
Oh, you can spend some good money on rum. Yeah. And there are some really high-end sipping rums, and they're great. They're all great. And I went on vacation with my wife. Someone watched the kids, and we went to Jamaica, and where Ian Fleming, he wrote the James Bond books,
guy,
right? And he lived in Jamaica and wrote a bunch of the books there. And where his compound is called GoldenEye, and you can go there now and vacation at GoldenEye, and they have their own signature rum, which is delicious.
GoldenEye rum?
No, it's not called GoldenEye. It doesn't have the James Bond.
No James Bond
I think
affiliation,
they got away, but like it's their blend.
I
forget what it's called offhand, but it's dark and it's just sweet and delicious.
Okay.
And you're just like, yo, and can we throw in some pineapple and coconuts? Like, let's do this, man. And like they like gave you a free bottle. They gave you a blender and just a huge basket of fruit, and you just like mix of fruit and ice and rum and just sitting on the Caribbean.
Man, you're making
just
me
like
dying for a drink here. This sounds great.
Jamaica's and the whole thing's awesome,
and
man.
the music's rocking and everything's class.
Oh man, it's great.
I would never have thought you was a rum man there. You're the only person who said rum. That's great.
It. Oh man, I love it.
Man,
it's good stuff.
Listen, I could go on for another hour here about rum on its own, but we have to wrap this up because we've been talking for over an hour. Thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything you want to plug, or like Project Trio? Obviously, everyone go check it out. Is there anything else you want to plug?
No, man. Got the ears look, nice plug yourself, guys. I hope if you listen to this at the end, you're like, you know what? I'm gonna take my flute out the case today, and maybe I'm gonna blow my flute a little bit, man.
Yes.
And you're gonna blow it in memory of us, man. You're gonna be I'm gonna blow it.
Well, not in memory. We're not going anywhere. Like we're fine for that.
Well, you know, salutations.
Thank you. Right, well then, we're going to go. Thank you guys for listening. This has been so much fun, and I'll see you all next week for the next episode. Cheerio, guys.
Right on.